Good afternoon, everybody. Thank you very much for joining us this afternoon, and a special thanks to our attendees. I know how hard it can be to get away from the dispensary during the day, let alone during a flu season and a pandemic. Just a brief outline of our agenda today. We'll take a quick look at PharmaConnect. This will be helpful for any attendees who may not have yet seen the application. We'll do a quick intro to our notification features, and we'll do some questions. We're happy to ask any questions, so please ask away. At the end of the presentation, my co-host Melina will have some information on spreading the word about PharmaConnect, and we'll also look at a success story for one of our PharmaConnect members. So what is PharmaConnect? So to a pharmacy or a pharmacy owner, PharmaConnect is your technology solution. It gives you equal footing with big box pharmacies who have deep budgets, gives you the ability to have the same technology solutions that they produce. To a patient, PharmaConnect is the ability to interact with their pharmacy in a safe and convenient manner. It allows patients to order prescription refills via a secure web page or a native iOS or Android app, and manage the prescriptions of their family members as well. To pharmacy staff, PharmaConnect represents a simple way to take back valuable time in the dispensary. Patients who use PharmaConnect don't use traditional means of interacting with the pharmacy, meaning less calls and less patients waiting in front of the counter for prescriptions on demand. When you first log in, you're presented with the home screen. This is the activity center or your dashboard, and this lets you know what's going on with your profile at the current time. So for Brenda, she can see that she's got a request that's being processed right now at the pharmacy. The pharmacy's workflow will dictate back to her what that status of the prescription is, so she can see that this is being packaged, and she knows that basically she'll likely get a ready for pickup notification very shortly. If there are any other prescriptions that were critically due to be refilled, meaning due to be refilled in the next few minutes or next few days, she'd be able to see them here on the screen as well. Let's take a look at the prescriptions tab. On the prescriptions tab, as a patient, Brenda can see all of the prescriptions that are meaningful or important to her. This means active prescriptions, as well as inactive prescriptions, which are hidden by default and can be viewed simply by expanding that view. If we take a look at one of the medications in the profile, we can drill into the details. We can see all of the details for this prescription, the prescription number, medication name, and a picture. We can add a personal note to it. So maybe Synthroid 175 is not meaningful to me, but maybe if I type in a note that says for my thyroid, then this becomes a little bit more meaningful, and this shows up on the screen for Brenda to see. She can also see her refill history for this medication. She can also see the details in terms of the receipt details. She can see who the prescriber is and which pharmacy this came from. This is important if Brenda uses multiple pharmacies. If she has a pharmacy that she uses for her main prescriptions and perhaps one that she uses for compounds, then we want to make sure she knows where these prescriptions are coming from, especially if she's going to get a pickup notification. We want to send her to the right pharmacy. Patient can also view the Kroll Care details. This view is exactly the same as it would appear in the printouts that you give to your patients in pharmacy, so there's no difference between the information they see here and what they would see if they were with you in pharmacy. The Pharmacies tab is where patients can locate their pharmacy and link to it when they're getting registered. So in this case, patients registering to my test pharmacy here in Guelph would be able to locate my pharmacy, select that pharmacy, and link to it when they are prepared and when they've set up their profile. I'm going to jump back over to our webinar presentation, where we can talk about some of the new updates that we've performed for PharmaConnect recently. So in terms of security, we've added two-factor authentication. 2FA is an additional layer of security to the username and login process. Most people know username and password for almost everything that they log into, but 2FA is a recent addition to security for a lot of people. They're not familiar with it or they don't know about it. Simply explained, an authenticator app that lives on one of your mobile devices will give you a secure secondary password that changes over time. So maybe every 20 to 30 seconds it updates and changes. And when you log in using your username and password, the system will prompt you for 2FA. And this is only if a patient enables it. This isn't for everyone. But when you have it enabled, you will be prompted for your secondary level. You pull that code or password off your mobile device and type it in, and then you're granted access to your profile. The second addition or the second change is self-registration. Historically, PharmaConnect has been by invitation, so you and the pharmacy would recruit patients who you felt best suited the need for PharmaConnect. There are some patients in your pharmacy who may be averse to technology, and this may not be the best solution for them, but this gave you the control to recruit who you wanted or who you thought was appropriate. With the advent of self-registration, which we put toward the beginning of COVID, we allowed patients to register in the pharmacy using their personal and prescription information. So I could create my account on PharmaConnect, link to a pharmacy, and define at that pharmacy who I am by putting in some information about a prescription I have there. When that confirmation occurs, patient is allowed then to see the rest of their profile. If there's any doubt on the system side about who a patient is, we may prompt for additional information like a healthcare card, but that process is pretty slick. It moves very, very well. And lastly, patient notifications. So these have traditionally been available to PharmaConnect patients only, and now they're available to all patients in your pharmacy, not just those registered for PharmaConnect. Let's take a look at some of those now. So the patient communication module is a Kroll enhancement that, as I said, allows pharmacies to expand the scope and reach of these notifications to all patients in their pharmacy, not just those enabled on PharmaConnect. The module allows for pharmacies to communicate things like ready for refill, ready for renewal or pickup, allows us to message patients on demand. So perhaps you just want a quick email or a quick SMS to the patient that says, you know, we've got a question, can you give us a call at your earliest convenience? You have the ability to do that. You have the ability to communicate consultation-based events. So we'll get to those later, but if you've got an appointment with the patient, giving them the ability to know that you've created that appointment for them and what the details are and any changes along the way. Messages or notifications can be sent by SMS or email, or if your patient is registered with PharmaConnect, they can get push notifications directly through the app. Notifications are also available in English and or French and are triggered based on the language in the patient profile. So a few examples of notifications that are supported by Kroll and PharmaConnect and who they might apply to. So Kroll has supported the ability to book appointments in your calendar. Now when you book an appointment, starting on version 10.20, Kroll will allow you to select the appointment type and allow you to choose the contact method for who you're going to share the appointment info with. And that could be the patient, it could be someone who they want to join them on the appointment, so that everybody gets the same notifications at the same time. Virtual notification with Suzanne. She just received an appointment in her email, and that information or that notification gives her all the details she needs to prepare for that appointment. In the case of Suzanne, perhaps she started a new medication on a pump, as an example. She's at risk, so she's been asked by the pharmacy just to stay home and that they would do this virtually for her. So they'll set up a virtual consultation session with Suzanne and teach her how to use that pump once it arrives after the prescription's been delivered. Kroll also supports SMS and email-based ready for pickup, refill, or renewal. So John, who is a young exec, gets a quick SMS message that he's got a prescription that's ready for pickup, gets that live as soon as it reaches that point in workflow, so he can now make time in his day to divert to the pharmacy on the way home, pick up his prescription, instead of getting home, checking his messages and finding out, oh, I've got to go back out and go over to the pharmacy and get my prescription. It's one trip. That adds a lot of convenience for him. We also have support in Kroll for caregivers. So in a situation with caregivers, much like Brenda, who we saw her profile earlier, Bill gets a notification for a prescription that his mother has that's ready for pickup or ready for refill. He can then take the steps he needs to either within the app or directly with the pharmacy to get the information for that prescription and have it picked up and get it to her on time. We'll take a quick look at a couple of example notifications now. So for appointment-based notifications, as I mentioned earlier, the details are clearly communicated. Patients receive notifications when the appointment is created, or if it's changed in any way. If we move the date and time, patients receive a change notification. If it's canceled, they receive a notification with instructions on what to do next. And reminders are sent just prior to the appointment so that people can stay on time. Everybody needs a little guidance in their day. In the case of virtual appointments, patients are provided with a secure link to the consultation with the pharmacy. That link can only be initiated by the pharmacy at the pharmacy's location. It cannot be initiated from an outside location, so it's very secure in that manner. Ready for pickup notifications? They're clear and concise. It's the what, where, and the when. Whether this is by email or by SMS, just the information you need when you need it. And prescription refill and renewal notifications are sent at configurable intervals in Kroll. This means you're able to set either based on a day's supply or based on a percentage used of the day's supply when you want these notifications to go out. In the case of renewal notifications, there's some intelligence that's been built in here. So if the prescriber for the specific medication being requested for renewal does not support fax or phone refills, then the patient receives a notification that includes those details. So the difference here is, in a notification, if this were a renewal notification, you would have the ability to open PharmaConnect or contact the pharmacy and say yay or nay, I'd like this prescription or not. If it were a renewal request for a prescriber that doesn't support phone or fax requests from the pharmacy, then the patient receives a notification that basically tells them that a physician visit is required prior to a refill being available. So it's very clear, a little bit of intelligence built in there, and then once the patient using the app, as an example, uses the app to indicate that they want that prescription from you, this comes right into the to-do queue of your Kroll instance at the pharmacy, allowing for seamless integration right into the pharmacy. At this point, we'll shift gears once more, and I'd like to take a look at one of our success stories. So Barry Manuel, owner and head pharmacist of St. Albans Pharmacy in St. Albans, Newfoundland, has been a longtime supporter of PharmaConnect. Barry joined PharmaConnect back in June of 2019 and has been using it ever since. Barry has about 300 patients enrolled from his pharmacy in PharmaConnect and has the ability to, especially in tight times during COVID, keep patients out of the dispensary where it's appropriate and never lose contact with them, especially if he's got limitations on how many staff he can have behind the counter in the dispensary during this time. So this allowed his pharmacy to stay fully operational throughout the entire period of the pandemic to date and never drop or miss a prescription at all. COVID has been a big winner for him. His staff, he's got some young staff with him, and they've really been key drivers in this, encouraging patients, even some elderly patients, to make good use of this, even if all that means for them is that they're getting notified that the prescription is filled and is either ready for pickup or ready to be delivered. At the end of our presentation, we will share a copy of this presentation with you, and there'll be a full link to an article that we've published about Barry and his experience. I would encourage you to take a look at that and see how Barry's experience could be yours. And at this time, we can pause for some questions about PharmaConnect or the patient communication and notifications.
Ladies and gentlemen, if you'd like to queue up to ask a question on the phone, please press 01 on your phone's keypad. You also have the ability to type questions into the chat on the webinar. We would encourage you to use that feature as well. It takes a little time for us to go through the process on the phone, so bear with, but if you've got questions that you want to type into the Q&A box on the chat, go for it. Melina, any questions coming into the chat?
No question yet.
Okay, we'll give it a minute just in case.
I have one question here. The question is, will you be showing us how to set it up on Kroll?
As part of your subscription to the service in Kroll, we will provide you with a full training. Today's session was not designed to be very technical, but suffice it to say that the setup for notifications in Kroll is a once and done, and it is designed to be part of a sign-up process. So if you're already signed up and using PharmaConnect, then this will be very quick. Our implementation team will reach out to you virtually, connect, set it up for you, and show you what they're doing along the way. And it's basically a once and done. Once it's set up, there's very little that you need to do outside of setting the preferences for patients when you recruit them, and they will go over that with you as well.
Okay. Jack, if you're present, you'll need to press 01 again. All right. So we do have a question from Jack. Just Jack. Please go ahead.
Okay.
Yeah, I find that doctors usually aren't either accepting or not accepting faxes. It's more a matter of sometimes they charge patients for faxing renewals or not. Is there a function to in the patient profile to discern, like some patients we know have paid their block fee, and so they can you can fax for all the renewals you want, whereas other patients have not paid their block fee to the doctor and would get charged for each request of a fax.
Right. So you're asking, is there ability for the patient to submit a request directly to the prescriber through the app?
No. Like right now, there's a function to allow for the prescriber to be I do not accept faxes or I do accept faxes.
That's correct.
But often prescribers accept faxes from everybody, but they will charge some patients and not charge others.
Okay.
So let's say I get charged for each fax renewal, but you don't.
Okay.
So then the doctor cannot be labeled as a do not fax doctor. They can be faxed, but because I get charged for each individual request, my profile, I would hope, would reflect the fact that the pharmacy not call the doctor unless I'm advised that I will be charged for each request. Whereas
so you're saying, how do we communicate that to a patient to just give them sort of a heads up or a warning that there may be a charge with their doctor for the fax? Is that, because I'm not really sure I'm understanding your question, Jack.
Like the renewal function, like to ask the patient for a renewal function at a specific time. Some patients get charged for each renewal request, whereas some don't. So some patients never want to be notified. Oh, you know what? I think I answered my question.
Right. So here's maybe some information that helps. Within the application, patients have the ability to set the preferences for their notifications, right down to the prescription level. And this may be more accurately coming to the point of your question, and I apologize that I didn't get this quicker. So once you set them up in Kroll and you've determined what their notification preferences are, patients may want to change that at some point in the future. Maybe they sign up with you for SMS and they decide maybe later on they want email. But further down in the drill down, they have the ability to set whether they want refill and renewal notifications or just refill notifications for those prescriptions. So they can say, you know, never ask me if I want renewals for any of their medications or specific ones.
Perfect. Thank you.
All right. I apologize, Jack. That might have been a little confusing.
So we have two additional questions in the chat box.
Excellent.
First question is, at what point in the dispensing process does the text go to the patient that the prescription is ready for pickup?
Okay. So in a workflow-enabled pharmacy, this happens automatically. When the prescription reaches the point of completion in your workflow, the notification is triggered automatically. In pharmacies that don't support workflow, you can choose when you want to send those notifications out, and there's a utility in Kroll that simply allows you to scan the barcode on the hard copy of the prescriptions, put them into a queue, and they'll automatically be sent out when you choose.
Thank you, Robert.
Yep.
And there's one last question in the chat box. Is there a cost for this? And what is the cost?
Sure. So if you are a PharmaConnect-enabled pharmacy, then this new notification feature is available to you free of charge. But notifications are only available to pharmacies who have PharmaConnect enabled. So if you're not a PharmaConnect-enabled pharmacy and that's something you're interested in, even if it's just for the notification functionality, we can set you up as low as $49 a month on a 3-year contract. I would encourage you to indicate your interest either at the end of this webinar or by way of reaching out to us at the information provided as part of the webinar follow-up, and we will have someone reach out to you immediately and set that up for you.
Thank you. There's no other question in the chat box. Carl, is there any questions on the phone?
There are no questions on the phone queue.
Okay.
Okay. At this point, what I'd like to do is turn the presentation over to my colleague, Melina, who will talk to us about ways that we can share the product with your patients and get the word out.
Thank you, Robert. So now that you understand how PharmaConnect works and that PharmaConnect is an easy and convenient way for your patients to order new prescriptions and refill from their computer or mobile device, it's now important to inform them about all the benefits for them and to essentially get them on PharmaConnect so that you can have more time to focus on what matters the most, so your patients and their prescription. So we are happy to share some resources and tips that can help you get your patient on PharmaConnect. So Robert, if you can please just go on the previous slide. The first resource is an article, 3 strategies to get your patients on PharmaConnect. So we encourage you to read the article. Again, we will share the webinar recording and the presentation by email to all attendees next week, so you will be able to access the article. And in this article, you will find out how you can get your patient to sign up for PharmaConnect. You can switch to the next slide, please. Thank you. And then we also have 3 additional resources for you to promote PharmaConnect. First, for those of you who are already registered and offering PharmaConnect in your pharmacy, you should have received a printed promo kit by mail. If you did not receive it, we invite you to let us know. We'll be more than happy to send you a kit, or if you ran out of flyers, we can definitely send more flyers over to your pharmacy. And for those of you who are not yet on PharmaConnect, we just want you to know that once you do register for PharmaConnect, we offer you different ways to promote PharmaConnect in your clinic and in different other channels. So in the printed promo kit, you have a poster, flyers, a tent card, and a window sticker for your pharmacy. You see here on the image is the tent card and the flyer that you can distribute to your patients. The second item that we created is a downloadable digital toolkit. So what it is, essentially, it's a file that you can download, and you have access to a GIF, an animated image, and 2 static images that you can share on your social media channels. So if your pharmacy has a Facebook page, for example, or if you are using Twitter, you can leverage the social media images on these channels. And lastly, we've built a very nice web page. The link is here, telehealth.com/discover PharmaConnect. So this web page is for your patients to learn more about PharmaConnect. So we invite you to provide this link to your patients so that they can learn more about PharmaConnect, how it works, and all the benefits. There is a promotional video explaining how it works and all the benefits on the page, as well as a link for patients to register or create a new account. But again, you will have access to this link on the presentation. And on the flyers that we are sending you in the printed promo kit, we will direct the URL that is on the flyer to this new page, so that patients can learn more about PharmaConnect. So essentially, we really want you to know that we are more than happy to provide you ways for you to help you promote PharmaConnect. We are open to suggestions if you have any. So now I'm opening the room for questions. If you have any questions about the material that I presented, or if you have some suggestion, we will be more than happy to to see what we can do or create in the near future to help you promote PharmaConnect to your patients. I have a question here. So is there additional costs involved for the printed promotional material? So the answer is no, there is no cost. This is something that we provide for free. And if you already received the kit and you're running out of items such as the flyers, don't hesitate to reach out and we'll be more than happy to send you some additional items at no cost.
And I'm happy to say that those printed materials are high impact. These are not on plain paper. These are on good cardstock with a decent gloss factor. Both Melina and I put our own personal stamp of approval on these materials, so I'd like you to know that these are not the cheapest quality that you can get your hands on. These are high impact. So when you're going to use things like the advertising card as a bag stuffer, there's a real impact to that. Patients seeing this understand that you take the service seriously, you promote the service seriously in your pharmacy, and we do that for you as well.
There's another question. I think this one is more for you, Robert. So can patients pay for their prescription through the APP?
Good question. So this is a feature that's on our roadmap, but as you can imagine, payment features as you know them traditionally in any other form of e-commerce are fairly simple in comparison. With any kind of e-commerce, let's say you're shopping online at a store, you choose an item that's available, you put it in your basket or your cart, you choose a payment option, you connect your Interac or your credit card, you click pay, and you're done. But with a prescription, there's a huge difference. When a patient submits a prescription for payment, there's a delay factor that's involved. Almost like we're going to get that ready for you, and we'll let you know when to come back and pay. And this is the piece that we're in the process of developing right now. It's that delay factor. So a prescription needs to go through adjudication, and then there may be copays or not. And so at that point in time, once it completes the UE and adjudication, then we can call the patient back to the card and say, okay, everything is done. You can pay for your prescription, and here's the balance. But this, again, is not that simple. What if you fill 2 prescriptions for a patient using this manner? The patient pays online using an e-commerce account attached to PayPal. They show up at the pharmacy, and then they say, well, I've changed my mind. I don't want this one. So there's some real technology concerns here. We wanted to ensure that payment would be available, but we're trying to make sure that we do this with the best possible approach before we can make this available to the patients at large. But it is coming, and it's something we're very excited to release when it's ready.
Thank you, Robert. There is no additional question in the chat box. Carl, is there any question on the phone?
There are no questions on the phone.
If there are no more questions, we can give people 5 more minutes back in their day. But I encourage you to reach out to us after the webinar. If there are any questions, please use the email that you get as a way to reach back to us. And no question is too small. We look forward to hearing from you. Thank you very much for your time today, and we will see you on the next webinar.